That 60 Minutes interview. And, the interesting thing about that, and I watched a big chunk of it, is Leslie Stahl from 60 Minutes goes after the president a number of times about not only his handling of COVID-19, but also at one point she talks about how, do you think name calling is working? People seem turned off by that, women in the suburbs. And the president at the very end basically gets up and leaves before the interview was scheduled to be done. That kind of thing, Brian, does it hurt him? Does it help him? Do people care?
I think the president's overplayed his fascination with professional wrestling at this point. I mean, he has tried to learn sort of the art of making people interested in what you're doing by being interesting and creating controversy. The problem is he really has no dynamics. It's all controversy with him, and it's all combativeness. And that's not something that holds people's interest or makes anyone feel as though this individual deserves more time. Now, if you are someone who is just in the tank for the Republicans because you're conservative, you're a lifelong Republican, or you just really like the president, then you're going to vote for him no matter what. But as Steve mentioned, that sliver of undecided voters across those key battleground states, they're not looking at that and going, that's somebody I want in there for 4 more years, because he's had 4 years now. This isn't 2016. He has a record to run on. And with those COVID deaths creeping up and not much of a movement on stimulus funding and these sorts of things, the president is really going into the last week and a half of this campaign, I think, in a pretty precarious position. And picking a fight with Leslie Stahl in 60 Minutes is not going to turn that around.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I watched the whole thing. I mean, Leslie Stahl did her job. She wasn't being rude or biased, and she wasn't being hateful. She was asking the president, tough questions because he's the president, Steve, and he needs to answer these questions. And, by posting that interview, it's sort of his way of doing an end run around, CBS and saying, well, here's the full interview. You can watch it for yourself. And by the way, I'll put it up before they actually air it, so I'll steal some of their thunder.
Well, absolutely. And it's important to remember, too, that when you're talking about President Trump and his regular fights with the media, I'm not sure that brings new people to the table. The folks who like Trump and don't like the media, they're already going to vote for him. This does not help him with swing voters. And when you're looking at an election that's less than 2 weeks away, every day matters. And a day spent fighting with the media, if you're Donald Trump, is a wasted day. I watched the segment as well that the president put out, and all indications are that being president means being accountable. You have to answer questions about what you have done and what you haven't done. I mean, the reality is that if you want to be president, you have to be prepared for tough questions. And if you're not prepared for tough questions, even 4 years after being president, there is something that is really missing in your ability to communicate effectively your message.
Steve Farnsworth, Brian Calfano. Hey, gentlemen, good to see the two of you again on this Thursday. We'll talk again, no doubt, many times in the next 10 days or so.
Thanks, Todd.